Welcome back to the Chaplain's Compass. I'm Elise Tremaine.
And I'm John Betts. Today I'm really excited because we're joined by Imam Ayman Soliman. Ayman Soliman is a Muslim chaplain whose story has captured national attention. He came to the United States from Egypt after facing persecution and imprisonment for his work as a journalist during the Arab Spring. And then he was granted asylum in 2018 and has served faithfully as a chaplain at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, my old stomping grounds, and as a leader in the Muslim community. But in July of this year, his asylum was suddenly revoked and he was detained by U.S. immigration officials for over 2 months. And after widespread advocacy and support, thankfully, he was just recently granted release and his status was reinstated. So, in our conversation today, we're going to hear about Imam Soliman's journey of faith, his resilience, his calling, and also what chaplaincy looks like from his perspective, and how his experiences speak to the wider vocation of spiritual health and care across the various traditions. So, Imam Soliman, we're so thankful that you're here with us.
Thank you very much, Chaplain John, Chaplain Alice, for having me. And congratulations on this wonderful work, wonderful podcast. And it's my pleasure to be here. And I'm ready.
That sounds good.
First, I just want to say how happy we are that you are here able to talk to us because so many of us were worried about you and praying for you and wishing you well. And I hope that you felt all those prayers and you felt all that support. We were overjoyed when we received the news that you had been released. So that's wonderful.
Thank you very, very much. It still does not feel and seem real to me. I'm still questioning whether I am I really free? Um, am I released? And I really, really appreciate the kind of prayers um, because given the circumstances and looking objectively on um, how things went, I don't think there were any means that led to my release except God's grace and people's prayers. So simply, God's answered the prayers of good people. It is a miracle that I am out and I'm talking to you today, and I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. It is just a miracle. Not people say it's almost a miracle. No, it is a real miracle. Because all the worldly means failed, and uh, it is just a miracle. And I think God answered the prayer of the kind and sincere individuals, and I'm so grateful. So thank you very much for the prayers and for the support.
I first heard about your story because we have a mutual friend and a colleague, uh, Lizzie, who also served with you at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and thankfully, um, yeah, she was very she advocated for you on social media, and so that's where I first found out about it. And so it's wonderful to have you here and hear more about your journey, especially looking into your past and what brought you to the United States. So I would love to open that up. Like, could you share a little bit about your journey from when you were in Egypt during the Arab Spring and then becoming a chaplain in the United States?
I was born and lived in Egypt most of my life. Um, I started getting interested in religious studies, Islamic studies, theology in around 1997, 1998, after I graduated college. And Islam was a big part of my life. It shaped a lot of how I lived and how I um, looked at things. Uh, Advocacy and standing for what is right, standing for justice, opposing evil, opposing dictatorship, tyranny. Freedom is an obligation in Islam. Peoples in Islam are required to do their best to be free and to free those who deserve to be free. So I worked as a journalist during the Arab Spring in 2011. And for me, it was a way to serve my community, to uplift my country, and to help myself and my people to live in freedom. And because everybody deserves to live free and be treated justly and fairly. And of course, this got me into a lot of trouble. Journalism everywhere is a cause of a lot of trouble for those who do it professionally, especially in places where speaking out is a crime, which is the case in Egypt. So we had a military coup after this revolution, the Egyptian revolution, Arab Spring. We had a great 1.5 years. We enjoyed freedom. We elected a president, a parliament. We had a new constitution. We lived in a lot of good things. Then we had a military coup where their main target was the revolution, freedom, and democracy. And I decided to stand for what I think, what I thought is right, and what I still think is right. And I opposed the military coup. I did that through my work as a journalist, freelancing with many international televisions, and through my advocacy as an Egyptian, a rebel, and a freedom caller and fighter. And that put me in a lot of trouble. I got detained and tortured, persecuted, and chased. Uh, Finally, I came to the US um, in 2014, applied for political asylum because I couldn't go back to my country. I got death threats, and it was impossible to go back. I was granted asylum in 2018, and I thought this country promised me a safe home. And I was working on my legal status to be a permanent resident and hopefully a citizen at the end. But it seems like someone or some people um, unfortunately denied my right to that. And I've been harassed since 2018. Things got worse in 2021 when I got a job as a correctional chaplain um, at the Department of Corrections in the state of Oregon. And after I got the job, they told me there was a problem when they ran a background check. And I kept fighting that. Then they kept removing the flag and then bringing the flag back and saying lots of things. I got advised. I sought legal advice, and I was advised to sue the government, asking them to release information about me. What do you guys know about me that um, made me ineligible to get this job and to be treated like other people? And unfortunately, I thought this was my constitutional right, and it seems like this triggered the government. So they made things complicated, and I got into um, some rough years starting 2021, 2022, and ended up by revoking my asylum status and detaining me in July 9, 2025. And I had to spend the 72 days at the Butler County Jail, a maximum security um, jail in Cincinnati. And by God's grace and people's prayers and activism, um, I was released, unexpectedly released. No one knows why I was released, no one how I was released. All what happened was in last Friday, the jail received a letter from the asylum office in Chicago, the same office that granted me asylum and the same office that revoked my asylum in July of 2020, in June 2025, just telling me that we reconsidered your case we looked into your case, and we just wanted to inform you that our decision to revoke your asylum on June 3, 2025 was rescinded. Therefore, your asylum status that you were granted in July 2018 was reinstated. And they released me in 1 hour.
Just as suddenly as it was revoked, it was reinstated, and I mean, that's traumatic in itself, just the ups and downs and the roller coaster of emotions there. Can we back up just a little bit on your story? Can you tell us what drew you to chaplaincy specifically? I hear about how faith was formative to you and how important it was, and how it really did relate to you as a journalist speaking the truth and fighting for people's freedom. But why chaplaincy? And specifically, I guess you were first correctional chaplain, but then to healthcare and children's healthcare. Can you tell us about that journey?
Yeah, I would say, again, like a lot of great things in my life, um, great, either joyful great or traumatic great, but great things in my life, big things in my life, it was also unexpected. It was one of the best unexpected and unplanned things that happened to me, to pursue chaplaincy. So when I came to the US, um, I tried to find some ways to stay legally before I applied for asylum. Uh, with my experience and my degrees in religious studies and Islam, I got a job as a youth director, youth minister at one of the Islamic centers in Chicago, and I got a religious visa based on that. But unfortunately, before I got the job, some disagreement among the leadership members of this Islamic center led to um, some disagreement, and I had to leave. I got an offer for a scholarship to study Islam and global studies, Islamic theology in one of the Islamic colleges in Chicago, and I got it to get a master's of art. Then that switched later to a master's in divinity. Um, I liked it very much to work with the youth. They just empower me as much as I would love to empower them. Yeah, this is where I found myself. So I wanted to be a college chaplain. Until 2017, I never heard the word chaplain. This actually does not exist I mean, at least in my um, life back in Egypt, we don't have a chaplain. Yes, the good deed of visiting the sick or supporting people, the vulnerable, is actually very, very integrated in the Islamic teachings. So everybody almost does that as a religious, yes, obligation or good deed. Not if everyone, of course, does it the right way, but it is integral, and it is, yes, it is deeply rooted in our culture, in our tradition. And we believe that Prophet Muhammad was one of the first and great chaplains. Um, and when we look at his, yes, the spiritual care principles from his life, um, we really find a lot of guidance. So the word chaplain was not popular, but then I heard that some Muslim imams and some Christian Jewish leaders actually have jobs in colleges, and their main work is with the youth. And I said, this is fantastic. I'd rather have something like that than being an imam at a mosque. So plus, I also looked at the need. Where am I needed most? Like, there are so many people who can give Friday sermon, lead prayers, but there are not many people who can provide spiritual support to the people who need it. And for me, college students, Muslim youth were my first target. So I thought, I heard that in order to do that, you need to do something called CPE, clinical pastoral education, because they'll always ask for one unit at least. Then this was my journey. I went to Mount Sinai Hospital in Chicago to get my first unit. And to be completely honest, at the very beginning, I didn't know why I was here. People have different feelings about chaplaincy, about CPE, and CPE is can be rough and can be difficult, can be challenging. It's either you like it, you don't like it. So I was just looking for the day that I get my first unit CPE so I can go work at a college uh, chaplain until one night. And that's how God got me into chaplaincy, into healthcare chaplaincy. One night I was on call and I got called. We would usually get called to the ED. This hospital uh, used to receive some of the highest gunshot, you know, individuals in the country. Like I would say, in a normal summer night, we get 7, 8 gunshots. Violence is very, very big in this area. So instead of getting called to the ED as usual, I got called for a code um, to support a 70-year-old woman who got a heart attack. I met her. She had a beautiful face. And the first thing she told me, "You're a chaplain?" I said, "Yes, I'm a chaplain resident." And she said, "Can you stay with me?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here for that." And I held her hand and, tried to comfort her, listening to her. And one of the things she told me is, "I feel like I'm going to die, but I don't want to die alone. Can you stay and be with me?" I told her, "Well, your team said you're okay, you'll be okay." And that actually was the fact. They said we're over that and she'll be okay. We'll just run some tests and she should be fine. And I said, "I'm going to be with you." We keep talking about her life, and she said she doesn't have anyone, she doesn't have family, and she doesn't have that many friends, but she loves God and she liked that we would pray together. So we prayed together, and I asked her to tell me something uh, good about her life, something fun about her life. And she um, shared some stuff with me, and then the nurse said, "We need to take her to run some tests and we'll bring her back." And I told her, "I'll be back. Once you're back, they will call me and I'll meet you again." Said, "I don't want to die alone, and I feel comfortable having you here." I said, "Absolutely. Once you're back to the room, I'll be back because I can't go with you." And I went back to my shift and checked on the ED, and then I got another code. She coded where they took her for some, labs and tests, not in her room. So I ran. I didn't know that it was her. I ran to where I got the code, but unfortunately, at that time, by the time I went there, she passed. Yeah, and she was covered, and I didn't know uh, who passed because it was in a different spot. The nurse told me, "Yeah, we had a patient who just passed." Uh, and I told them, "Okay, any family members we can call." Started working on um, her release. And then for some reason I said, "Can I go to the room and see the patient?" I didn't really even think that this was the same patient. And I went and I just, yes, uncovered her face, and it was the same woman. I don't remember that I cried that much and since my grandma died when I was in middle school. It was just, it was just a very, a very special moment when I felt like I betrayed her because I promised her that I'll be with her, and she was very worried that she will die alone. And I regretted not staying in the room until she's back or even go with her. I was a chaplain resident. I didn't know much about whether I'm allowed into, her labs or not. It was just, but I regretted and I was very, very angry at myself. And I said, I should have asked the nurse. I should have asked someone. This woman was asking for someone to be with her. I should have walked with her. I should have held her hand. And I cried the almost the entire night. And in the morning, we would have a debrief with the team. I was the only chaplain at the hospital at night. And in the morning, I was just I was sad I was angry at myself. I felt the guilt. And once my manager uh, and our CP educator started asking me about what happened, and I gave them a report, and I started crying. And then that moment, I decided to be a hospital chaplain, a healthcare chaplain. I said, yes, this is not going to happen again. Nobody should die alone. There should be a chaplain everywhere. And I will not assume that, um, yes, I need to be curious. I need to ask questions. I need to ask the team, where am I allowed, where I'm not allowed. If this woman just needed someone to spend the very last few minutes in her life. And unfortunately, I couldn't do that. Then I decided um, to go for the second unit, third unit, and fourth unit, um, another hospital. And she was the woman that I don't really remember her name, but meeting her for 5 minutes made me decide to be a hospital chaplain. She changed my life.
I really hear the compassion that you have through that story in your heart. So thanks for sharing that. It's a really touching story. It made me think too, as chaplains, we know that when people come to the hospital for whatever reason, whether or not it's an end of life situation, it can present a crisis of faith in a lot of just in a lot of different ways. And at the same time, for some, it's their faith that sustains them during those moments of crisis. So I'm wondering for you, being detained for 72 days in a maximum security prison, a place where you probably felt like you didn't belong, just like our patients feel like, this was not in the cards, this was not in the plans. Did that present a crisis for you? And or what sustained you during that time?
Interestingly, one of the things that I learned in CPE is a good chaplain will help people cope, use their support system to cope. A better chaplain will help them heal, but the best chaplain will help them make sense of the experience and find the meaning. So, during the first few days of course, my detainment was traumatizing, was shocking, because for me, jail, being in jail, was the least of my worries. Because I know, yes, my problem was I was terrified that I'll be deported and get killed. That's about it. During the first few days, I had hope that I will be released on bond release. So my attorney told me it's going to be few days. So I said, hey, you got an opportunity. You were denied the job at the correctional facility in Oregon. Now God brought you here to serve this community for few days. So you need to do your best to make the best of these days. So I went to the jail. I said, you should get over your own grief. You should get over your own trauma and focus in these days, because it is very important to minister these people. So I would say it was a very interesting experience on how I really got over my own grief. I tried to forget, and people actually who visited me in jail, like in the video, could easily tell that the first few days, first 2 weeks, I was acting much better than anyone expected, because I thought, okay, I will find the meaning in this. The meaning I can and I will make and find in this experience is God put me in this situation to serve these people and minister them and support them, and I have very limited um, time, so I can't think of myself. I just think of these people, and I really think I did good job. I was supporting it. I speak Spanish, and the majority of people who were detained are Spanish speaking. They're South Americans, and for them, uh, by the time I got into I got into my pod and my cell, I was already in the news. So most people already knew that there was a chaplain, there was an imam who got detained. So many people knew me, and I would see people in the morning saying, "Hey, you're the guy that they detained. Everybody is protesting for you outside." So that actually helped me, everybody knew I'm already a chaplain. I'm an imam, so they can actually rely on me. So that actually helped me build the connections and really try to listen to their stories. And majority, of course, of South Americans are Catholics, and it was a really interesting opportunity uh, to um, to connect with people in that level and try to see how their faith can be a source of support. It was very beautiful that someone would come and say, after having a conversation, telling them about the circumstances of their detainment, what they are expecting. Now, most of them actually were in final deportation order. So for them, there is no court. They're just waiting for the day to board the flight and go home. So I was yeah, I was curious to listen to whether it is a good thing for them to go back to see their families, um, or to go back to the US. Uh, Many actually spend many years without committing any crime. They Everybody felt the injustice, felt that they were disrespected, they were treated differently because they were the other. And I tried to navigate that and see um, if their faith can support them, if they can make sense of this. And many of them would say, you know what, I've been here 7 8 years, never seen my family, and I didn't know when I would see them. Maybe God just thinks it's better for me to be back, to be with my family. Um, and we would hold some prayer moments. I would pray with a person, and sometimes I would, you know, get some candies from the vending machine and give it to some people and say, "Hey, I just wanted to share this with you." And then we have a conversation, and we end up say, "Hey, how about we just pray together if this will bring you some comfort? What do you want me to pray for? How about you pray first, and then I pray after you?" And it was so beautiful. Um, in jail, you can request a rosary with a cross in it. We have Muslim rosary, we call it tasbih and sibha. So we still, yeah, but there was no one, there were no one without a cross. And some of them, uh, when they knew that I was Muslim, and we discussed, what do you guys believe in Jesus? What do you, what do you worship? And I, shared, you know, um, uh, some of, uh, some of our beliefs. And I always told them that if there is a figure that will bring Muslims and Christians together, it will be Jesus. And unfortunately, if there is a figure that will separate Muslims and Christians, it will be Jesus. It depends on who is talking and who is understanding it, the respect to Jesus, and um, um, love for Jesus can bring people together. But if we just focus on the cross and Trinity, then will be, and monotheism will be in problem. So some of them would actually bring me the rosary, remove the cross, and give it to me so I can use it as a Muslim. I was it was very beautiful. Um, the 1 week before I left, um, before I got released, a very interesting development happened. Now it was, I would say, 65, 66 days. So almost got to know almost everyone. And there was a group of three Catholic Christian uh, volunteers came from a nearby church to visit people in jail and minister them. They allowed that in jail, and they used to meet in a quiet room. One of the gentlemen who came could recognize me because they saw me in television, and came to me and said, he asked the officer, "Where is the Muslim imam?" And then they pointed at me, and then he came and said, I came here for two things. One, my wife asked me to come and pray with you and support you. And I asked him, how did your wife know me? And he said, our daughter was sick 3 years ago at Cincinnati Children's Hospital where I worked. And she told me, yeah, she told me that a kind guy who seemed Middle Eastern, and it was obvious that he probably was not Catholic like us because they pray. I prayed with them. It's usually a universal prayer that does not end with, uh, calling upon Jesus, but he was kind and his prayer brought us comfort. And then when she saw me in the news, he said, now it's time to go and pray with him and support him. That was a very, very, very beautiful moment when we sat together and he prayed and I said, Amen. And then he said, the second thing is, I want you to come and join us in our prayer. He would bring 15, 17 detainees in that room and pray with them. And I joined them. And at the end of, they were discussing um, some chapters uh, from the Bible. And at the end, he asked me to pray for everyone. And I prayed again a universal prayer. Although everyone in the room knew me really well, like 60 plus days, but we never had this congregation, 15, 17 people, three Catholic Christian pastors, and one Muslim imam, and a congregation of 15, 17 um, South American uh, um, Catholics praying together and um, uh, sharing their um, their faith together. It was one of the highest moments of the 73 days that I spent in jail.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's a powerful story. I love that. Uh, in Christianity, one of the topics, one of the common stories is the discussion about how the Apostle Paul was in prison, and a lot of the epistles that we received were written while he was in prison, and he was using that as a means to minister to the people around him. Uh, I love hearing the story of you uh, as as the chaplain to the unofficial chaplain in the midst of your imprisonment to the people around you, making making the most of the ministry that was presented to you.
And uh, and to be honest, um, part of our question was, how I survived it and how I, yes, my faith was very important and I prayed a lot. And I don't think I was ever closer to God in my entire life than I was during these 73 days. It was really rough. I was someone who was getting closer to die every single day. And as I said, by all means, I was very realistic during my detainment. I was aware of what's happening outside. I know there was a lot of activism, a lot of support, but I knew um, in reality, the situation was very, very difficult. So I prayed more than I ever did. I was closer to God more than I ever was. But my faith was not the only force that kept me going. It was, and I always tell people, this was my Trinity. Of course, God was everything, but there were two other elements that God facilitated. One was the support that I got from outside. People were very supportive, and every time I hear that people were fighting for me, it kept me going. The third thing is, I felt like God was paying me because I really cared for others and I tried to support people. So, having a conversation with someone, listening, giving someone some listening ear and comforting them was one of my sources of support that helped me get through this.
So we have a lot of chaplains who are in the midst of uh, ministering to people who are also uh, in areas where they are they're with vulnerable populations who are in the midst of the fear of deportation, discrimination, injustice. So, using a lot of what you've learned and what you've experienced, I'd love to hear what wisdom would you share for chaplains who are actively ministering in these contexts? And how could we, and going with that, how can we as chaplains advocate for the dignity and rights of those we serve?
That's a very good question. So, as for the first part of the question, the it is normal when you if you are a prison chaplain, it is normal to meet some people that believe, think that they are detained unjustly or they are imprisoned unjustly, which is normal. Not everyone in jail in general is criminal, but injustice among these detainees that will get deported is much, much, much higher. Like almost everyone feels the injustice. Almost everyone feels vulnerable. This is not a normal imprisonment. When you kill someone, you know that you will face consequences. Yes, you will be angry, you will be vulnerable, you will need support. And you might also accuse the community that they were the reason that you had to do that. I was treated like the other. I thought this country was my country. Like I met people who lived here for 28 years. They came here when they were 17 or 18, so they lived here more than they lived in their own country. They don't even know another country. And still, they were treated like the other. You don't belong here. And that was very, very, very rough. These people did not have a spiritual struggle in the sense that, you know, God is angry at me or God is abandoning me. These people were angry because how can my fellow neighbors and humans that I served for 28 years end up doing that to me? And how can they do that in the name of some faith or some understanding of faith? Uh, so I think the work should be more intense. As I said, while in a normal prison, you will see a number of people are struggling with this feeling of injustice, of being treated unjustly, being treated like the other, that they they do not belong here, the life does not matter. But this is very, very prominent, and this is very big in this type of detainment. And I would say almost every single one, even those the ones that were very happy to go home to see their families and to get over it, they still had some bitterness in their hearts that how can these people treat me this way? So this is very important. Second, although everyone in my experience was almost laughing and joking, except me, I was very, very, very uh, sad. I don't remember how many times I laughed. Probably very few times at the very end of my detainment. But um, that actually these smiles and laughs in jail it was we were out of our cells for 5 hours a day only. We were locked down for 19 hours a day inside the cell, which is actually this is unconstitutional. This actually these are the regulations for maximum security, criminals. But we're just detainees. We're not we do not represent any danger. So in these 5 hours, you will see these people, eating together, playing cards, playing chess, and laughing. And the moment you sit down with them and give them a chance to talk and they find someone to listen, you really see that these laughs and these jokes and these smiles really hide a lot of grief. A lot of grief. I don't think any imam or any pastor could realize that. And this is a job of a chaplain to just really get over this, behind this, beyond this surface. Yes, everybody was laughing. And I know when I have some conversation with some officers said, see, everyone is happy. Everyone everyone is okay. You are the only one who complains. No, 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 no. You haven't talked to these people. You did not minister them. You didn't listen to them. So I was very lucky that I met these kind individuals who came from the neighborhood church to serve these people. But unfortunately, um, I don't think this is the case with every IS facility. Some people came to us from another facility. They said, we never heard of a chaplain or a volunteer. So I think a good thing to do as chaplains, which is the second uh, part of your question, is to really try to invest some time in looking for those. It is very easy for anyone, wherever they live in the US, to go online and get an authorization to visit people in jail. Those people, although they are here for um, a short period of time, well, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then they will get deported. But they might actually need that support most. They need someone to tell them, no, you belong here, and I'm so sorry this is happening to you, and you're not the other. And I promise you that there are so many people in this country that care for you and that support you. One of the beautiful things that happened while I was detained, as one of my um, friend chaplains did some beautiful thing with his wife. So I got people are allowed to receive letters from outside. So I got like 760 letters from people all over the country, and I even got letters from people in Europe. It was so beautiful that my story was everywhere, but many people never got a letter. So my friend, after sending me a letter and checking on me, he wrote like 10 letters with his wife and his child and addressed, Dear one, you are not alone. You are not just a number. We care for you. I am a white American Christian, and I'm telling you, what is happening to you does not represent me. And we care for you, and we're praying for you, and we're hoping for the best for you. And they give me, like, send me like 10 copies. And some some pastor in one church sent me a letter for myself, and they sent a letter in Spanish, and they said, feel free to give it to someone. And that really helped a lot. These people found that, yes, the this was not my idea. I was just as surprised as you, and it was beautiful. So we got many letters written, um, addressing, dear one, dear friend, dear brother. I just wanted to let you know that I pray for you, and I'm speaking for you, and I I do not accept what is happening to you. And I would go see 4 or 5 people sitting, playing whatever or talking. I say, hey, I get a message for you, and I go give them the letter. Is that for me? Yeah, it's for you. Just read it and see what is in it. And it was really very, very helpful, and it made a big impact. So these are some good ideas for chaplains.
Hope is a powerful thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Speaking of hopes, too, I mean, now that your asylum status has been reinstated, what are you hoping for yourself? I don't know. Are you looking for another chaplaincy job? Do you think you will continue in chaplaincy, or what are your hopes for chaplaincy as as a profession?
I think I'll be a chaplain until the end of my life, unless God has another plan for me. But for now, this is in my blood. One of the good things, the good outcomes of my detainment and having some time to think, um, I really worked too much in the past 4 years. I never took my PTO, never ever took my PTO, and I always worked late. I was very invested, and sometimes this was not a good idea because I didn't really take some time to, you know, think the future and think other possibilities. So one of the good things that happened as I was in jail, having long time in lockdown, 19 hours a day, beside reading and praying and sleeping, I had some time to reflect. And I think, um, beside, of course, being chaplain in some capacity in the community is where I can serve best. But we chaplains also need to be more invested in our community. Our community um, needs more than um, our 40 hours a week service, regardless to where it is. We also other members of the community need our ministry. They need our support. We have we are qualified in a way that many faith leaders are not, um, and we can actually make a difference that other faith leaders cannot. So I think my hopes is God will guide me to give back to the community. I am indebted to this community for my life. These people saved me. Their advocacy, speaking up, um, my story was everywhere because of those people. Some people decided to stand for justice, and um, God answered their prayers, and God recognized their efforts and their sincerity. So I think I have an obligation to give back to my community, and also um, to um, to be more invested in the community. Even if I went back to healthcare chaplaincy, I will be doing my best, but I'll also make sure that I invest more time, more efforts into the community to help those vulnerable that that deserve to be supported.
What I hear a consistent theme emerging from what you're saying, Hyman, is the theme of uh, thankfulness and also the ability to give back the many ways that you've been blessed and been supported over the past. I mean, the past few months, but it sounds like you've also the community has just wrapped itself around you and in love.
I was gonna say, what a gift you have been, I mean, to your community, to your hospital, to the staff there and the patients that you have served. And then what a blessing and what a gift you have been to those detainees with you. And now with us to this podcast, I feel like you have given so much more than you've received from being in this country. And this country is so much better for having you in it. So, really grateful for you and for letting us share in that story.
Thank you very much. I think what the community gave me in the past few months is something that I can never give back. Like no matter how much I work, no matter how long I work, if I lived 100 years, giving back to these people, yeah, they saved my life. I'm talking to you today because of their compassion. The other thing I'd like to mention is I always felt grateful that God gave me the opportunity to be close to vulnerable people at their weakest, and I could be a source of comfort and peace. But I also felt a very, very privileged human that people would allow you into their life, into their story, into their journey at these very difficult moments and give you the honor of being part of this, regardless to the outcome. Just having someone who is losing a dear one at hospital, for example, or someone who is spending long years on the behind bars for nothing they did, just to have the privilege of being close to them and for them to allow you into their journey and share it with you, talk to you about their vulnerability, their weakness, their anger. I really feel privileged that somebody will tell me, I'm I I'm angry at God. Of course, we don't disagree with people I but just feeling comfortable, just to trust you, to tell you about um these feelings he has, seeking some assistance. And when you look at the stories that end up with someone after some support and some conversations and some questions and then they realize that it was not actually anger at God, it was just frustration and then they did that because they really expected a lot from God. So there was a positive part of it. And once this is cleared and you see them praying, for example, or talking to and saying, now I feel better. What a privilege. You know, we are actually paid way beyond what we give, right? Like having this, change in someone's life is exceptional. So the community taught me a lot. How much compassion I learned in the past few months. I'm getting these letters from someone telling me, you never met me, and you might never meet me again. I am a neighbor. I am someone who enjoyed the privilege in this country. I was born white. I was born a Christian. I will never ever be deported. My status will never ever be in question. But I just wanted to let you know, I will keep fighting for you until you walk out free. This is a level of compassion. I think um, uh, beats any support or service I provided to anyone. Someone is just getting out of their way and getting themselves um, in some situation where they would advocate for someone they never met, they never knew. It is just these beautiful hearts. So what I learned in this experience, my community actually was my biggest chaplain.
Well, I think I know the answer to this just because uh, you've been. We always like to end the podcast with this question, uh, but yeah, what these days? What is giving you life these days?
Beside God's blessings and grace and the miracle, and I'm insisting to call it a miracle, even when I talk to people who are not that religious. It is really a miracle. All doors were closed, and I really mean it. We did our best. You know, I had a big legal team, but everything was closed, and just God opened the door that I never imagined that it will be open. So just knowing that He made the impossible possible um, makes me trust Him that I don't actually have to worry again. If He got me out of this, then then He will be sufficient and enough for me. The second is this love that was poured over me. I I got released on Friday. Uh, I left my house on Monday. Since then, I meet people, random people in the street. A woman was walking my way and she said, "You're Ayman?" I said, "I'm Ayman." Said, "I was driving and I parked my car to come and just shake hands and say, I'm so happy that you're free. And I advocated for you. I advocated for you. I was going to one of the grocery stores to buy something. An African American brother saw me walking in. And when he saw me, he said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, you're Ayman. Can I give you a hug?" And he gave me a very, very big hug. And as he's doing that, he was not supposed to do that. He's a guard. He should watch everyone. And people coming in and coming out stopped and started taking pictures. And everybody started to realize that I am the guy that they saw in the news in the past few months. Uh, 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 this love that I feel everywhere. Right now, I'm browsing the internet and seeing the Facebook posts and people who got into fights over Facebook posts because somebody called me a terrorist, for example. You see 20, 30 comments on this. People are refuting what he's saying, and it is just so beautiful. And I think people's love is what is keeping me moving and going and healing. It really made things much easier. When I get released, I thought it will take me too long, and I still um, am aware that healing takes time. But they really made things much easier for me, at least for the first few days.
Well, you are loved, and your love is evident as you talk. So thank you so much for sharing your heart with us and for spending this time with us on the podcast.
Thank you very, very much for having me. Thanks for the beautiful work you do, and I enjoyed my time with you.
Yeah, this has been a rich conversation. Thank you so much. Uh, yeah, for sharing your experience and your heart. And yeah, I I don't usually get goosebumps, but I've got goosebumps when we've been talking about uh, the great work that. And I'll use your words, the miracle of you being released, and but also I think the miracles that you experienced in showing love and care for the people around you.
Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
And now it's time for the non-anxious presence with Elise.
And John. Wow, that this has been a powerful conversation, and it's very funny, Elise. After we finished that recording, we continued having another great discussion with uh, Imam Soliman, and what I mean, one of the things that he mentioned that blew me away was uh, this idea that it is through our faith that we are united across boundaries, and how it so many times people go, well, I'm divided because of our differences in our faith. But I think one of the things that stuck out for me in this discussion was that it's people who were Catholic, people who were Christian, people who were from various different faith traditions, each of them signing the petitions and advocating for him. And the fact that they were from it, it was through their faith, through the teachings that they had of their religion, that united them to say, no, this is wrong. We are advocating for this person because he is being unjustly held. And being able to have that courage to stand up for what we believe is right, and using our faith and our shared common morality that goes along with that.
Yes, that was also very touching for me. And interwoven in that whole conversation was the importance of community. You know, he said over and over again how much community these people saved me, and it just made me so much more hopeful for humanity to hear him talk about how community showed up for him, and also how he showed up for his community. And right in the beginning, when we started talking to him, it was interesting how he said that he was interested in religion when he was a journalist, and that freedom is an obligation in Islam. And it really, I think, brought the point home that our freedom is tied to others, to their freedom. You know, we are, and for us to truly be free, then we do have to advocate for each other. So yes, I was very that stir. I found it a very stirring conversation.
It was very stirring, and I loved how he touched upon how a lot of people, they didn't experience what's known as like the uh, divine spiritual struggle, this idea of God punishing them. Um, but I think he touched upon what's known as interpersonal spiritual struggle, the idea that you have all these people out there who are calling themselves Christians, who are also advocating for the unjust detainment of their fellow brothers and sisters in humanity. Um, and because of that, you have a lot of the people who were detained and imprisoned, that they were hiding their grief behind the laughs and the smiles, and how what I heard was the encouragement that chaplains have that unique skill set of being able to hear the laughing, the smiling, but also going, well, what's under the surface?
That stayed with me too. Yes, that stayed with me too, because I was thinking, how quick we are and how good we are at othering. When he talked about how much people, the detainees, felt and were treated like the other. And then he talked about exactly what you said, as how it's the chaplain's job to listen behind the surface to what's behind the surface, and how we are able to then really see um, the person, the dignity, the humanity of the person, and how that really, I don't know if what the word would be, but it's somewhat reversal of the othering. I don't know what that word is.
Oh yeah, yeah, compassion. I think it would just be purely compassion. That it's this idea where you see their plight. You don't jump in feet first. You jump in with one foot firmly planted on the ground, and the other one is sitting with them in the midst of their pain and holding their hand.
The other thing that I really loved about this conversation was just how much he lit up when he was talking about his work with the youth, and how passionate he was about finding chaplaincy, and his compassion for that one patient that he's still carrying in his heart. And that made me also hopeful for chaplains, because you could see his heart and his passion for his work. And I know that my fellow chaplains are passionate people. They're tender-hearted people, and that makes me I feel so proud and grateful to be part of this community of chaplains.
He had mentioned that he has his own trinity, uh, which I thought was very funny. He mentioned his God, his community, and that God was paying him. He used the term payment, paying him in his experiences that he was sitting beside those who were imprisoned around him. And so you had that those three things of common substance of experiencing the divine among everyone.
And he tied it to how chaplaincy is about helping people have a sense of meaning out of their experiences. And his experience was an illustration of that, of how he came to be in the same, detained just like the others, but he was able to make meaning out of that situation as a chaplain, being serving as a chaplain to others. Really made me think about Viktor Frankl's work, A Man's Search for Meaning. Not to say, that it's the same as a concentration camp, but just the idea that meaning, life can have meaning in any and all circumstances, and how having a purpose can really help people survive.
Yeah, the fact that he went from being a chaplain in a correctional facility to being on the other side where he was then the person who's being as a prisoner in a correctional facility. That's powerful.
Well, I have a blessing that I'd like to use to close us out with. It's from Kate Bowler's book, The Lives We Actually Have. I think I have, now that we are on video, you can see my book. I think I have used this book before in the podcast, but this is a blessing for when so many are suffering and you don't know what to do. Oh God, so many are suffering beyond what they can bear. Come quickly with help that is stronger than death. You see the vulnerable who face what we find hard to imagine, and their caregivers and healthcare workers, families, teachers, and helpers of every kind who string together scarce resources while they're running on empty. Blessed are we, still in our relative ease, still jars of clay, yet broken, who give to others what we yet can give, who pray boldly and love fiercely. This is the very ground of our being, God's love for us and love working through us. Thank you all for listening to one more episode. We hope that you enjoyed and that you can share this episode with your community as well.
Thank you very much.